Yeah, man, you took the words right out of my mouth. A guy that when you turn his tape on just plays with a tenacity. He's got a build and a frame on him, man, that he's just suited for big time D1 football. 6'5", 260, plays with a chip on his shoulder. I mean, I want to watch some of this tape with you. I mean, just his ability to get in the backfield coming off the edge is something that, is definitely needed. I mean, look at that. His relentless pursuit, just to find the football. I mean, he sheds off two guys right
Two
there,
guys, yeah.
pushes one off and makes an ankle tackle, a guy with a relentless motor. And, I'll be honest with you, we lost Bo Atkinson to Ohio State, and Melkart was a guy that when you turn on his film, he seems to be a pretty solid, replacement for Bo. A guy that's played a lot more, and I'm not knocking on Bo Atkinson. My heart sank in my stomach when Bo Atkinson announced he was in the transfer portal, and when he ultimately committed to Ohio State. There were rumblings about that, and definitely going to miss Bo this season because I think these two right here could have been a dynamic duo. But you look at him; he's played in meaningful snaps. Let's see if we got his snap count up here, fellas.
We got his stats last year. 20. I don't know his snap cap, but 24 tackles, 9.5 for loss, 6.5 sacks last year.
Yeah, so I mean, guy that's contributed to a Delaware defense. It's lesser competition. So he's definitely got to step up. But you look at the tape, man. If you can play football, you can play football, and I think that's a lot of the mindset that this scouting department and Lombardi and Belichick really look for with guys that they were bringing into the program. And he was one of our first transfer commits. Man, he entered the portal from Delaware December the 9th, and he committed to Carolina December the 17th. So he was one of our first portal, and that was of 2024. So he's one of our first portal gets. A guy that
third guy.
Yeah, he was a third overall guy.
Yep, third commit. So,
yep. I know I'm kind of rambling on about him, but a guy that I'm super excited for. Trevor, I want to get your take on him too, man, because you and I are both expecting some pretty good things from him.
So I want to say, man, when I'm watching this film, I'm having Mel Kiper in my ear, and I'm thinking this is what you see when Belichick was in the NFL. This is that dude that they draft like in the late first round, second round pick that nobody's like, who is this guy? Nobody knows who he is, and he goes on to have a Pro Bowl career. Like
where's a neck brace?
Yeah, this is like a typical Belichick guy. And one thing I want to add, man, y'all, I don't know if y'all saw this, but I put in my notes. So out of Newton, New Jersey, originally a walk-on at Delaware. That screams Bill Belichick to me.
Originally I love those stories, dude. Like the Matt Collins story for us, him being a walk-on special teams like captain, and then just going and balling and having the career that he's had over the NFL. He's a journeyman, but he's contributed. I love stories like that, man. That's a guy that's got a chip on his shoulder, and you can tell that he plays with it too.
Yep, and I think he's a guy in the room, man, that he's unpolished. He's got a lot of room to get better, which is scary to think about because he was pretty good last year at Delaware, and I think he's probably the most upside. There's some older guys in that room that should be the leaders, but I think if this cat figures it out at some point in this year and Belichick does what he typically does to players, look out for this guy to make some noise.
Yeah, there's another guy that we'll talk about later on that's, for all intents and purposes, we expect him to be ahead of this guy on the depth chart come, week 1 against TCU, and we'll talk about him later on, but just looking at this, just looking at Melkart's tape, if he is a rotational guy, is a damn good one to have on the field. I mean, the production that he had at Delaware and just, the eye in the sky don't lie. The guy can ball. He's got a relentless motor and definitely somebody that you love to have coming off the edge for you, no matter how many snaps he gets.
I mean, he definitely has a knack to get in the backfield. I mean, 9.5 tackles for loss, 6 sacks. What I'm very curious about is, he seems like he's a high motor guy, right? Watching, now with what I'm about to say, I tread lightly, but his motor reminds me of Kamen Rucker quite a bit, because we just had Cayman on. If you missed that episode, you can catch that on Spotify and YouTube. It was a really great, talking it up with him.
I love that episode. I love talking with Cayman, man. Good dude.
It was awesome. And so that's why I bring that up, because I was watching so much film and studying for that interview. But his motor reminds me a lot just from watching those highlights of Cayman Rucker, right? And so what I'm interested in is that, can that motor potentially increase, but also, it seems like he has all the tools there already, and then stepping up to the ACC now with, all the strength and conditioning that UNC's brought in this year. I mean, like, we've heard about it over and over and over, right? That, like, the rumblings coming out of camp, coming out of the spring, the spring practices and all that is like, they've never seen anything like this. Like, anytime a new coach comes in and say, oh, we're bringing in, like conditioning like no other, like, no, like, we have literally heard this from players, right? Like,
yeah,
this is not built for this is not built for the faint of heart for what these players have been through. So it will definitely be interested to see if Melkart can even take it up a notch, right? Because, like, going from Delaware, it reminds me of Gio Lopez a little bit, talking about South Alabama when he was at ACC media day, and somebody asked him, what's the difference? He was like, look, I didn't even have iPad. I didn't even have an iPad at South Alabama, right? And so, like, I'm sure Delaware probably experiences maybe not iPads, or maybe so, right? But just going from a situation where you're in Delaware and now going to Carolina and having all those other things that you're being able to expose to, right? The training staff is just world class, and nutrition world class. It'd be interesting to see if he can even take it up a whole nother notch. I'm really excited about what the potential, I mean, like, Belichick, like you said, Troy, what he went in the portal 6th and then committed 2 weeks later. Like, Belichick, they knew, right?
Less than 2 weeks.
Yeah, they identified him and snagged him out. Do you guys have anything else you want to potentially add on Melkart?
One more thing real quick. So you talk about turning it up a notch. When we were at that practice like a pro event, we talked to some offensive linemen after, and we're like, man, y'all down there stirring it up. We didn't have no numbers. And they were like, man, yeah, it's that Delaware guy getting after it. How good is that to see, some fire from the guys, right? I like to see that. I know they're teammates, but I want to see them going at it, man. I don't think we've seen that enough last year.
Hey, Tar Pit crew, thanks for tuning in today. You just heard a clip from a recent episode where we broke down one of the key position groups. If this episode hit the mark, do us a favor, like it, drop a comment, and share it with a friend. That kind of support keeps the podcast rolling. You can catch full episodes of the Tar Pit Podcast on Spotify and YouTube. Don't forget to follow and subscribe today. The Tar Pit Podcast is proudly powered by Untapped Sports Network. Thanks for listening, and as always, go Heels.